Hello and welcome back to Marineford TCG. My name is Joe. Drink of the day is yet again Tenzin Peach and Honeymelon. I'm really enjoying this one. And today Bandai have revealed one SR for each of the new leaders from OP14. In addition to that, there was a couple of other Mihawk type cards revealed and a couple that just missed my previous video. Starting off with the red one, we got Monkey D. Luffy. I very much predicted we would get a Searcher for lore. And shockingly, we got a Searcher for lore. Incredible work. He's 101k, top 5 search for supernovas, other than himself. And then when attacking, you can give one of your opponent's characters minus 1000. And when attacking, not too crazy, but honestly something extra that's nice. When I was predicting the Searcher, I thought they'd just give us like a Nami clone, an OP1 Nami clone. But the fact that this does something else when attacking is really good. Obviously, this is going to be the recipient of your lore effect. What are we going to transfer the power from? We still really don't have a good answer for that yet. We're very much waiting for the top end in lore, which presumably will be a lore. In terms of what are we searching with this, again, we're still kind of waiting for this. The Beppo and the Shachi Penguin that were revealed the other day, they're not supernovas. You can't really find them with this. They're heart pirates. In addition, the 6-cost lore from PRBO2, which I sort of thought would be one of the best cards in the deck, it's not a supernova. He's Punk Hazard, Warlords, and Heart Pirates, so you can't search him. Currently, really, it's only Kid and Killer and the set 1 Rush Sorrow, because all the other like decent Supernova cards we've got, they're all called Monkey D. Luffy, at least in red. So Monkey D. Luffy obviously can't search himself, so that's a bit mid. Also, small nod that this could be good in RG lore. RG lore already plays a lot of Straw Hat and Supernova crossover, so the fact that now like your Nami searcher can search for your Luffy, then your Luffy can search for cards like Cavendish, cards like Jewelry Bonnie, 5-cost Secrets, in addition to all the other supernovas that this deck plays, lots of lores, typically. It's quite nice. It'd be an extra consistency boost for this deck. You can also grab it with a 2-cost Dan, which is fine, I suppose. Not sure it's going to make RG lore meta, but if you are an RG lore enjoyer, this will surely be a decent little buff for this deck. And it'll be interesting when we look at the rest of the supernova support we get in OP14, whether that could make RG lore playable for the sort of 2-3 months before he rotates. Next up, Jinbe. And we've got this big, massive 8-10 Jinbe. Fishman, Warlord, Sun Pirates, 8-10. When a card is trashed from your hand by your effect, this character gains Rush for the turn. And this sort of pseudo-leader locks him to Jinbe. So as you can play him in other decks, if you don't get this Rush, you're losing out on half the card, right? His second effect, on play, you can rest 2 Don, effectively making him a 10-10, and then you get to draw 2 and then bounce a 7. All of this all together, so if you treat this as like a 10-10 Rush, draw 2, bounce a 7, that's really strong. Obviously, it does mandate that you use your leader effect at least once, but typically I think in Jinbe you're going to be looking to do that anyway. I imagine we're going to get more Fisherman cards that have sort of effects that either give you more cards to draw or have effects that proc when you trash cards, like this Jinbe gaining Rush. In terms of the meta, bouncing a 7 is fine. Into RU Ace, they're already in the part of the game where they're playing Whitebeards, so like you can get rid of a Jozu, which is okay, and a 10k stat line plus your leader effect does let you swing for 12 at least, so you're doing some damage. However, I don't think it's that crazy. If you were to use your leader effect twice to sort of make this guy 14, you trash the 2 cards that you drew, then you've got a 10-14 rush, which is at least getting a couple cards out of your opponent's ace, which is fine. Into Emu, I just don't think this is very good. You can't bounce anything, which really does suck. I still don't know why they gave all the Emu cards blanket anti-removal. I think I was really lame. But it's going to take away half of this Jinbe's draw. Not his literal draw, but half the draw of playing this card. So it just becomes like a 10-10 rush that draws 2, which is fine, but nothing too crazy. Also, small cope that you could play this in Sakazuki because his activate main would activate the rush of Jinbe, which is pretty much the only other leader that has a reliable way to activate this rush effect. And in Sakazuki, you can indeed bounce an 8 with the second effect. I mean, 10-10 rush, draw 2, bounce an 8. That's a little bit more appealing. There's a few 8s, things like Katakuri blocker, 8-cost Rayleigh, if 8-cost Mihawk running around. This could be okay. Although I think generally Sakazuki is just kind of bad because Emu exists. Moving on to Doffy. I think this is maybe the most interesting one. It's a very interesting card at least. 10-10 Warlord Don Quixote Pirates. On play, Don -3, choose one. And then the first effect is leader locked, but the second effect isn't. So the first effect, the one that they think is stronger, if your leader has Don Quixote Pirates, you get to KO an 8. So it's a 10-10 that KOs an 8. Comparing this to Stussy, Stussy has a little bit more of a cost, but she can KO anything, and she comes down one turn earlier, but does have 9,000 power. I think mostly equivalent, but specifically with regards to the meta, not being able to take out 10 costs is big. However, his second effect is also pretty cool. Up to 3 of your opponent's cost 7 or lower characters cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next turn. So not only can they not attack, but they also can't block. If they've got a 7-cost Blackbeard, it can't tap itself for an effect. Also into Mihawk, this is very funny, because Mihawk likes to rest his own guys, right? And Doffy's like, nah, they can't be rested. Which is kind of amusing. In a vacuum, you can't chain this because it's Don -3, so you'll be on 9 next turn. However, if you have both the 8-cost Doffy and the 5-cost Rosie already on the board, which is probably feasible, you can use the Rosie's effect to restand Don, and then the Doffy's effect to ramp back to 8, and then you have 10 again, so you could chain this multiple times. However, if you want to use your leader effect, you can't chain this multiple times without like a serious amount of board setup. In terms of how good this is, it's nice that it's just a big guy for Doffy to deflect a hit into. I really like that aspect of the card. In terms of sort of blowing up an 8, it's fine. Ace isn't really playing anything that's too crazy for you to hit with this, and Emu's playing nothing that you can hit with this. In terms of freezing 3 7s, again into Ace, by the time you're playing this, they're playing Whitebeards, right? They're just playing Whitebeards and Rogers, and you can probably freeze like a Jozu. Maybe a Marco, stop them blocking with a Marco could be quite nice. But if you're going for lethal, you've just used 10 Don on a low Flamingo. It's not really going to help you go for lethal. So, I don't know about that one. Into Emu, this could be quite reasonable, though. Stopping, for example, their Walkery, their Mars, and maybe one other character from being rested, just say the Jupiter. Then if you take out the Nosturo, because they can't block for it, they're only going to have one swing next turn with the one remaining character, who I've lost track of who it is. It's Saturn. Incredible. And in that way, you will get out of a lot of aggression from them. They'll obviously have the leader and the follow-up Nosturo. There's not much you can do about that. And denying the blockers does sort of lose them a bit of value, right? Because they don't get the draw off the Walkery, at least. And then you've got this nice big 10-10 that's doing significant damage. Is it going to help you win that matchup? I'm not sure in a vacuum. No, you're going to need some other support for this deck to beat Emu. However, it's probably quite a nice piece. And I think into decks outside the top decks, this could be really, really good. Into Zoro, you're going to get crazy value with this. If you freeze like a Law, a Tashigi, and I don't know, Cavendish, say, I mean, that's a lot of power that they've just lost. And your leader effect is also very, very good into Zoro, because if they attack one of your characters, you can just deflect it to your leader to deny their leader effect and get out of the swing. So I think this could be quite powerful into Green Zoro, and also into a lot of the decks that are just outside of the top meta. Next up, we still have no fucking idea what Crocodile's doing. We have 3 new cards to talk about. We'll talk about the SR first. Mr. 2, 451k, Baroque Works. It's the same panel that we got a long time ago in the original Alabaster set 4, of him fighting Sanji. And on KO, you can play a Baroque Works type character at the cost of 5 or less, other than himself, from your hand or trash. In terms of what you're summoning with this, well, we've got this Mr. 5 gem. He's a blocker. He's on play. If there's a 0 or 8 cost, you can draw 2 trash 1. It's basically Queen. Just combo quite nicely with this. You can swing with the Bentham and then use Crocodile's effect to KO the Bentham, reduce something to 0, use Bentham's effect to play out the gem. You get a blocker, you get some draws. Crocodile's done you some mill. But this isn't like, it's not groundbreaking, right? We're just playing Queen with extra steps. And sure, it's slightly better than just playing Queen, but I don't think that's going to be good enough in this meta. I think we really need to see what the Crocodile, the SR or Secret Crocodile, is doing, because this is still very confusing. Like, we're not achieving anything. We're just drawing and milling some cards. Although if this Crocodile does end up being a really good card that gives us an idea of what this deck's aiming to achieve, this Bentham will absolutely be a core part. It's a very good card. I'm just not really sure what we're doing around it, if you sort of understand what I mean. The final new card we have to talk about is Miss Wednesday. It's a 1/1 2K Baroque Works. It's a Baroque Works 2K, so you're probably going to play it. Activate main, you can trash her, give one of your opponent's 0-cost characters minus 2,000 power. It's fine. I don't think this is too game-changing, unless we have something that interacts with power. Later on in this Crocodile Black Baroque Works package, you're probably going to play this anyway, though, just because it's searchable 2K. And, I mean, it's kind of like Otama, right? It's kind of like Otama. Anyway, moving on to Moria. And we only have one new Moria card to talk about. We got this big SR 810 Moria. Warlords, Thriller Bark. On play, you get to play a Thriller Bark Pirates with a cost of 4 or less from your trash, or add it to the top of your life. Somewhat reminiscent of the old 8-cost Moria, right? He played a 4 and a 2. This only plays a 4, and it has to be Thriller Bark, but he does have an extra 1,000 power, and he can also just be used as a heal. In terms of what we'd want to summon onto the board, I think the best choice by far is this Perona from EBO3. She's a blocker, and then she summons a 2 and gives your leader a Don, which is just some nice little bonus effects. The 2, you could then use with your leader's effect to KO it, and buff up the rest of your characters, whatever else you've got on your board, to get a bit more aggression, which is fine. In terms of what we're healing, I mean, you can heal a 2K, I guess, but I'm presuming we're going to get some yellow Thriller Bark cards in this set with good triggers that will sort of explain why we would want to put them in life specifically, outside of just choosing a card to heal with, which is fine, but not game-changing. There also has a trigger that lets you play a 4 from your trash, so that could come up, honestly. It's kind of like a Kikunojo trigger, right? Instead of just playing the card that you took off the life, you get to choose one to play from the trash. And I mean, playing this Perona out of nowhere, and then playing something off that could really catch your opponent off guard. Overall, not bad. I'm not really sure still what we're doing with this Moria deck. I feel like we're still missing a couple of pieces, but this is a really good value card. I'm just not sure that good value is going to be enough to carry this guy, but we will see. Next up, we got this new 10-cost Big Mum 10-12 on play. No, it's a 9-cost Boa. It's very similar to the old 10-cost Big Mum, though. A 9-10 on play. If your leader is a Warlord, you can add one card from the top of your deck to the top of your life, and then you force your opponent to take a life to hand. Like I say, quite similar to Big Mum. Not quite as good, but not locked to Big Mum Pirates, locked to Warlords instead. That means you can... Mainly, we're going to be playing this in Boa, but you could also consider playing this in the Moria deck that we just spoke about. He's also a yellow Warlord, and also purple-yellow Croc for the 5 minutes that they're going to be in format together. I think this card is really nice for Boa. I'm sort of seeing what they're going for with the Boa deck. It seems like it's just going to be a deck that forces your opponent to 0 with all these burn effects, and then uses Perfume Femur to swing rather large. And this Bo Hancock, being a big Warlord character, is a really good target for your Perfume Femur. Because you play that, she's already swinging 12. And into Ace, you'll be able to burn them down pretty damn fast. You play one of these, maybe you block something with one of the 4-cost Boas, and then you deal 1 damage. They're at 0. And, like, yes, they have a lot of cards in hand, but you could even play Pudding. You could go Pudding, Femur on the Hancock, swing for, what would be left, like, 16? That's demanding 5. That's actually impossible. That's a guaranteed lethal right there. Yeah. 10 Don, you play Pudding for 4, you got 6 left. 2 of them are Femur, but Femur buffs by 2k. And you got 4 Don left. 16 into 6. They only got 5 cards in hand, because you just played Pudding. Even if they're all 2ks, you win. That's pretty cool, actually. Into Emu, I can see that as well. I think Perfume Femur is going to be absolutely integral to this deck's playstyle. And this Boa being actual sort of guaranteed force of life to hand, as well as giving you a heal to give you just an extra turn, I think is going to be very good for this deck. And I can actually see this having decent matchups into a lot of them. Now we think about it, right? If you do what we were talking about with Ace, right? If you can burn them and then go putting Femur on this, you just win. Into Emu, we know Unblockable is very good into Emu. It is going to be potentially more difficult to kill them with a Femur because of the amount of counter events they have access to. But if you're able to get enough early aggression, that can be pretty good. And they're not going to be ecstatic to take out your board, right? Because if they do that, well then they get more burn, which is obviously suboptimal. And the same into Zoro. Zoro probably will take out your board on balance, but that still means they get burned by the leader effect, which is pretty cool. Also has a trigger that lets you play a 6,000 power trigger character or less from your hand. And don't forget, when you do that, you will draw a card. So you're only going -1 in hand, in that you're using this card's trigger, so you don't get it to your hand. You're not going -2 or anything too crazy. In addition to that, we had a couple of new cards from the Kuja Pirates archetype. The Gorgon Sisters is a 6/5 2k with Warlords and Kuja. Activate main, you can reveal 3 Amazon Lily or Kuja Pirates from your hand. Then you give your leader and all of your characters 1 rested Don each. All of them. Literally all of them. And this is a 2k. Obviously, you're not really going to want to play this for 6. But there's been a few of these triggers now that let you choose a trigger character to play from your hand. Or if you just get the trigger of this card itself, well, you can just play it, which is brilliant. I think this card is very good in the deck. You're definitely going to play this as a 2k. And if you get this as a trigger, I mean, that's a lot of value. You know, at baseline, if you've got this and your leader, that's 2 rested Dons. You add in 1 more character, you're getting 3,000 power for free. That seems pretty good to me. And don't forget that you might be like, well, what if they deal with your board? Well, then they've got no fucking life. They don't want to deal with your board because of your leader effect. So, you know, it all adds up. Finally, we had this Rindo 5/5 1k Kuja Pirates. On opponent's turn on KO, you get a heal, but then you take a damage. And this sort of combines to make it more likely than not that you just get a trigger. Obviously, at the very worst, you're getting a draw, so it's on KO draw 1. But a lot of the time, that damage you take is going to activate a trigger, which will say, if your leader is Boa Hancock, or has the Kuja Pirates trait, you get to play this card. So you get a guy to replace your Rindo that just went down. And don't forget that your Rindo will also make them take a life. So they're not really going to want to KO this for multiple reasons. Also has trigger play. Pretty good card. 5 is a bit expensive. It's probably just going to sit there as a 5/5, not really doing very much, swinging 5 each turn. And into Ace especially, that's a bit weak. And into Emu, I think it's a bit slow. So I don't think we'll likely see this Rindo, but low-key for a common, this is actually pretty fire. Moving on to Mihawk, and Mihawk's had a few new cards, actually. Firstly, Perona, 5/6 1k. On play, 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next turn. This Perona into Emu is fine. You can deny Walkery from blocking, and you can deny something else from attacking on the following turn. But the fact this doesn't hit Mars is a bit of a bummer, because you can't deny both blockers in the same way that something like DMG would. So I think it's not too crazy there. Into Ace, they just don't really play many 5 or lesses. You can turn off 2 Marco blockers, which would be very, very good value. But you could also just do that with DMG. And early game, I mean, you can freeze the Marco and like a Yamato. It's not that crazy. Into Zoro, though, I think this is actually very strong. Freezing things like Toshigi, the 4-cost Zoro, Cavendish, if they have that, even just a chump blocker like Koshiro, is all quite relevant. Also, interesting sort of effect, right? That if you deny Koshiro from resting, and then you play a card that would KO something that Koshiro could protect, well, he can't, because he can't rest himself. That's somewhat interesting. There is a few Mihawk events that KO things, right? Which, that could be a pretty cool combo. Also has the effect that on KO you can rest one of your cards and play a 5-cost or less green character from your hand. Some classic targets for this will be things like Cavendish, if you're playing a Supernova type deck. 5-cost Smoker, it's a banger. I mean, you can play another Perona. Doesn't say you can't. So you could let this Perona go down, rest something, and then play another Perona. Incredible. Then you can freeze 2 guys in your opponent's turn, which, that seems actually quite appealing. That's like a double beige, sort of. That seems quite good. Again, there's not that many 5-costs that want to attack. But into Emu, it could be clutch if they do decide to carry this with something like a Marcus Mars effect. This is not locked at all, and in fact, in Mihawk, if we are playing the Perona Searcher, this isn't searchable. So that's a little interesting. This is searchable in the Perona deck, but I don't think this is that great in the Perona deck, I'm not going to lie. I don't think this synergizes particularly with Perona, but I would love to be surprised. I think it's a good green card. It may well make its home in Bonnie. You're obviously competing fairly hard with Carrot, but Carrot's freeze is different, right? She has more longevity because it's a when attacking as well. but it doesn't have the immediacy of hitting 2 things, and it also freezes them as opposed to stopping them from being rested. So it doesn't deny blockers in the same way that Carrot does. This will be nice though for letting Bonnie keep up board tempo, because Bonnie is sort of a deck that if you could remove enough of their board, well, they're struggling without board. Into decks like Lucci and Sakazuki, and even Shanks in the past, Bonnie has struggled because of the removal. But Perona doesn't really let you do that, right? Because you remove her and something else comes out. A Smoker comes out, I don't know, a Cavendish comes out. All sorts of stuff could. But at least it keeps up some board tempo, which could be nice for Bonnie. Also, this is another card that can be played off the 6-cost lore, and you're not upset that it's rested because it has a useful on KO. Moving on to the rest of the Mihawk cards, we've got the Coffin Bones, which is a really base name. I really like this name. 1-cost stage, which we very much hoped that Mihawk would get a stage, because he wants to rest cards, and this is just the perfect sort of card. It's always there, it doesn't want to rest itself, your opponent can't really interact with it outside of very niche situations. So that's perfect. On play, if your leader is Mihawk, draw a card, it replaces itself, incredible. At the very worst, if you get too many of these, for 1 Don, you can just play him and draw a card. And Mihawk looks like he's going to have a lot of spare Dons. So just playing out multiple of these later on could be fine. But end of your turn, you also get to set a Don as active. This could have genuinely just been like a vanilla stage, and it would have probably been really good in Mihawk, because it lets you abuse his leader effect, as well as some of these characters' effects, like this Perona's on KO, a lot easier. But the fact that it replaces itself and gives you a free Don at the end of the turn that you can use for counter events, or maybe Perona's on KO, and some other effects here and there, is really, really nice. This is going to be absolutely staple in Mihawk, and probably one of your mulligan targets. Next up, we've got the Shanks 7/9 / East Blue 4 Emperor's Red Hair Pirates. So it's searchable off, for example, the Nami Searcher, as well as the Perona Searcher. And in your turn, when this character is rested, rest up to one of your opponent's characters with an original power of 7,000 or more. And a reminder that this works when he attacks as well, because you rest the character to attack. So not only will it work on the turn that you play it, if you then rest him with Mihawk's effect, but when you attack, you just get to rest a 7,000 power character, which is really quite good. Rest Marco, rest Walkyrie, rest Mars, pretty much any blocker that's relevant outside of Mihawk, Katakuri, and Big Whitebeard. You can rest with this Shanks, which is great. And then opponent's turn, if this character is rested, all of their characters get minus 1,000 power. Now, that's pretty strong. I do have some concerns that into Whitebeard specifically, it doesn't really do that much. The minus 1,000 power, well, their Whitebeards are at like 12k. Oh no, it's at 11k. Somewhat relevant into some of the smaller characters, things like Jozu's if they're hanging around. And even it might stop Marco from swinging as easily. Well, it's still 5k because Ace isn't Slash, so I guess not. If you can stack multiple of these, that could be really nice, especially into Emu, right? We saw how the red Shanks does that really well into Emu. So if you can get sort of 2-3 of these on the board, that could be incredibly powerful. However, it is worth noting with this guy just having 9,000 power, he is going to be very weak to multiple Nosturos. If they just have the 1 Nosturo on the board and are able to swing that into your Shanks, reduce him to 7, even if they're not swinging very much with that one, when they resummon the Nosturo and have the extra 1, they can swing 6 into it and reduce it to 5, and then they've got the leader as well, and they're going to have more Dons than 0, so I think this Shanks could be fairly easy for them to take out by battle with the Nosturos, but at a baseline, the effect is good. The ability to rest 7,000 power character is really good into both Ace and Emu. The fact that it's power-based, letting you hit the 6-cost Uta in Ace as well is pretty nice. And this will also be decent into Green Zoro as well, because whilst they are primarily focused on their leader, of course, they do still want to attack with cards like Tashigi, cards like Cavendish, the full-cost Zoro, and the fact that your leader will be 6k in that matchup, combined with this Perona freezing their guys, Shanks reducing the power of their guys, and your turn effect being able to rest a lot of their stuff, especially their blockers, could be very, very powerful into Zoro especially, I think. Next up, we've got some pack filler, Yosuke and Johnny. Yosuke, 2/2/1k East Blue. Your turn, when this character is rested, choose a rested 4 and freeze it. You're not playing this. And the same with Johnny, 2/2/1k East Blue. Your turn, when this character becomes rested, you get to KO rested 2. Incredible. I don't really want to play either of these. You can maybe put them in Kuro if you really want to, but like, let's move on. Toshigi over here on the left, 5/6 slash 1k. And it does really look like Mihawk is just going to be a slash deck, like Zoro. Opponent's turn, if this character were to leave the field by an effect, you can instead rest one of your cards. And that's not once per turn. So obviously into removal decks, this will be really good. Again, even just against Marcus Mars, he can't pop it. That's brilliant. Stops Jozu bouncing her as well, which is nice. Being a character that's very sticky to give you more board presence will be nice for Mihawk. And also, you have this activate main once per turn. You can rest 2 of your cards, and this character gains 2,000 power until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So, at the very baseline, this is better than putting 2 Dons on her, because you get the power immediately to attack with the same as you would with the Dons, but it sticks around till the next turn. And an 8k tapped character is a lot harder to deal with than a 6k one. Obviously, if you're talking about Emu, Nosturo is just going to remove that immediately. So I don't think it's going to be that sticky against Emu, but it is a nice little something. I don't think this is too likely to see a lot of play, though. It seems fine. Moving on, next up we've got Isho, and this is a pretty interesting card, right? 6/7 1k slash Dressrosa Navy. Your turn, when this character is rested, you can add the top card of your life to your hand. Then if you do, one of your opponent's rested characters or stages do not become active during the next refresh phase. So, obviously, we know freezing characters is good. Carrot's been brilliant. She freezes 7. Isho can freeze a 10 when attacking and on the turn you play him, if you rest him with Mihawk's leader effect, for example. And that's very powerful. However, you do have to take a life. So, taking a life to freeze a guy, it's kind of like that guy just attacked and dealt with damage anyway. So, I'm not super sold on that one. However, freezing a stage is huge into Emu. This is probably this deck's best answer to Emu at the moment. Being able to freeze the empty throne to either deny a 10 cost from ever coming at all, nothing ever happened, or stop a chain is going to be mega. And the fact that you can do this every single turn that Isho survives, of course, you can potentially stop them from ever getting a 10 cost. Like, ever. That's kind of wild. I mean, they can still play it for 10 and then proc it on the next turn, but that seems miserable. I think this Isho will be played in the Mihawk deck as an Emu tech. How many copies? I don't know. Could be 2, could be 4. It's searchable, so that's nice at least. Outside of Mihawk, I also think this could have a bit of potential in Red-Green Smoker. It's Navy, so it gains an extra 1,000 power in their turn, which is quite cool. It's Slash and it's Navy, so it's searchable with both Kujaku as well as Perona, which is fine. And if that deck wants to be Emu, which I think every deck wants to be Emu, this is one of the better ways to do it for sure. Although, again, it must be noted that you are taking lives, so you've got to be careful. You've got to be very careful using this card, but its effect is no doubt powerful. Finally, we have Kikunojo, 1/2 slash Wano Akazo 9. End of your turn, this character becomes active. I think this is just a limb card. I don't think I'm too excited to play this in Mihawk. I mean, you can dump it for 1 and then use it as like a perpetual rest target. You can rest her and then she'll become active again. But in Lim, this is a 1-cost 2k, which they've played some pretty shitty 1-cost 2ks in the past. You had like the Orochi guy, Scratchman and Pooh, that's been playing Lim. This one just becomes active though, so your opponent can't deal with it easily. And it's not too game changing, but it means that if you go second, you can happily dump this on 2. With the slight understanding that if you know your opponent doesn't have hard removal for a 1, then it's going to be there at the start of your next turn. You can just limp swing with it, and then play out a second character that you might need the on-play of, such as the 5-cost Denel. I think this will likely see play in Lim over the Apu or the Orochi, although it must be noted the Apu does have usage later on in the game, being able to rest chump blockers, whereas this Kikunojo is only good right at the start of the game, as like a backup 1-cost Lim. And finally, we did get the alt arts for all 7 of the new Warlord leaders. And honestly, I really like all of these. You've got the Law and the Mihawk here. Pause if you want to take a closer look. We've got the Boa and the Jinbe, and I do like this Jinbe a lot more than the past Jinbe, I must say. Both of them were like manga head style, but this one is so much better. Boa with the massive forehead as usual. The Doffy's got to be my favourite. I think these two are my favourite too. The Doffy playing with the strings and the crocodile turning into sand. It's fire. Huge fan. And then finally Moria looking kind of creepy. Yeah. I guess it's on brand for him, right? He's sort of the Halloween ghost guy. So, yeah, creepy maybe on brand, but Regardless, I really like all of these alt leaders. Let me know which is your favourite in the comments. And let me know if you think I missed anything on any of these cards. The TLDR, if you want to skip to the end, I suppose, is the Mr. 2 is a good card, but we still have no idea what Crocodile's doing. The Luffy, we expected a searcher. We got a slightly better searcher. Sure. The Perona, I think, is a very good card, but I don't think it's that insane in the meta at the minute. Other than into Green Zoro, I think this could be incredibly powerful. The Jinbe, I'm quite excited for Jinbe now. I sort of see what they're going for with this guy. It's going to be a very aggressive deck that draws and cycles a lot of cards. And this Big Rush guy makes a lot of sense. Although I'm not too excited about bouncing a 7 because the 2 best decks in the game don't really rely on 7s. The Tenkos Doffy, I think, has a lot of potential. We're still missing a couple of pieces, but with no other purple leaders in the set, I think we're very likely to get some more interesting Don Quixote Pirates cards coming soon. The Moria, I'm very mixed on. The healing is cool. Playing out 4 is also cool. Both seem very average, I can't lie. However, if we get some Thriller Bark Pirates characters with some really cool triggers, this could be a really good card. Has a lot of potential, I just don't think we've fully seen that potential just yet. And Boa might be my favourite. The fact that this comes down before 10 Mumwood, the fact that you can play this in multiple decks, and the fact that this will be double searchable if you choose to play both the Sengoku and the Grandma Neon Searcher. Combining this with your Boa Hancock leader's entire strategy, I think she has a lot of potential, you know. I'm quite excited for Boa at this point in time. Which of these leaders will be the best? Just have to wait and see. Still going to be 3 more SRs probably, some secrets, and a whole bunch of rares to come. But we will be talking about all of them on the channel, so make sure you check out those videos when they come. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.